likes, but nothing is hidden. It's all in position. Another transition, and in the beginning, swimming in empathy, sleeping on ceilings, zoned into signs. I'll be walking the lines between the planets and fires in orbital lights. Remove the remorse that I've left behind, but sickened by thinking, wallow forbidden. We end in the beginning. My skeleton figure moves like a river. The other danger, but removed from the picture. Stomachs react to the orchestra's flow, laughing in melody, a choir of memories. Through the lands now we sink like stones. We sink like stone. We sink like stone. We sink like stone. We sink like stone. Hollowed out corpses explored by torturous souls get caught in this whole world order. It's cold and glorious under the radius. Roll like Sisyphus, taking the piss. Poor pictures trigger happy fingers. Slip off the tongue, twist and whisper. Smoke and mirrors, read like scriptures. Bound by litter pickers. Pride and honor translates like horror. Stories graphic, the torturous swallow the poisonous water, the seeds, and see the trees grieve in the breeze. Tomorrow could see another deceased. Like stones, we sink like stones. We sink. Starlight heighten the heights of nighttime, rush with the rhythms, moving the skies, but nothing is hidden. It's all in position. Another transition, and in the beginning, like stones, sink like. We sink like stones. 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 I battled with the bottle, but I had to do it sozzled. Puzzled by poison, I shuffle the dirt that I live in with a digging dignity written in the stars. Look up to the legend, shining inspiration on the doubts and hesitations that are stopping you from facing all the fears that you're escaping. Making nothing but problems are the things that you're craving. Your heart is not vacant, you wear it like a bracelet, a chain that isn't breaking on a wrist that the blade has tasted, but never like the taste of. Spit the venom on the paper, punch the future, so you wake it from the death defining moment in the belly of the hopeless. Focus high in the belly of the hopeless. Focus, look up and down in the belly of the hopeless. This is the depth of death. This is the start of what's next. This is the depth of death. This is the start of what's next. Step towards oneness, into the arms of openness. Shed the old skin and let go. The man I was hangs like a shadow. The water will drown the shallow and bring hope to the hollow. Hollow dreams of tomorrow. Identify and eclipse the sorrow. Everything you own was borrowed. Everyone has paths to follow. Everything you own is borrowed. The silence speaks so loud, it will wake up this whole house. The silence speaks so loud, it will wake up this whole house. The silence speaks so loud, it will wake up this whole house. The silence speaks so loud, the silence speaks so loud. From a tune once lost in a battle to a tune that makes your ribcage rattle, we create a tone that's never quite settled, but set the bar to raise the level. From a tune once lost in a battle to a tune that makes your ribcage rattle, we create a tone that's never quite settled, but set the bar to raise the level. What we love is not enough, blown apart by the gust. Push your luck and test your trust, ignore the voices from above. What we love is not enough, blown apart by the gust. Push your luck and test your trust, ignore the voices from above. Turn to drink and drown in drugs. I can't hear your silent words, so the silence cuts and hurts. This voiceless house will surely burn if these flames proceed to yearn. Demons' ashes, future urn. Smoke grows quick, will love return, will love return. What we love is not enough, blown apart by the gust. Push your luck and test your trust, ignore the voices from above. Turn to drink and drown in drugs. I can't hear your silent words, so this silence cuts and hurts. Will love return? Will love return? It feels pointless now, am I voiceless now in this ocean of frigid crowds? Can you hear me now? I will burn this house. I'm smoking too much for you to put me. It feels pointless now, am I voiceless lost now in this ocean of frigid crowds. Can you hear me now? I will burn this house. I'm smoking too much vape to put me out. What sweet love is not enough, blown apart by the girls. Push your luck and test your trust, ignore the voices from above. What sweet love is not enough, blown apart by the girls. Push your luck and test your trust, ignore the voices from above.
Okay. Hey, Tim, are you there?
Hold on just a minute, if you hold it then you feel it. If you haven't got no limits then you're limitless. Hold on just a minute, if you hold it then you feel it. If you haven't got no limits then you're limitless. Are you through with it? Flaking out, hypocrite. Rewrite this fucking script and leave my mark hieroglyphs. Make it, cross and cross, kiss and dick. Treasure touch, now it's stitch. Get a grip, burn the bridge, let it out, take a whiz. On the world, apocalypse. Substance abuse, scientist, take a hit, miss the hit. Drowning habits, try and swim. Lights flash, start to spin. At it again, lost your friends. Smoke your mind your step. Down to death, no regrets. Ceilings fall, steeped in sweat, lost your breath. Cigarette. Out of line on a trip. It's a train, fix your drinks, cut the shit, tricky kid. It's a train, fix your drinks, cut the shit, tricky kid. Hold on, just get it if you hold it, then you feel it. If you haven't got no limits, then you're limitless.
I'm here, I'm alive, I'm awake.
We're all getting started a little late here.
Yeah.
Just got on. Tim has been missing in action because I got started late, so.
I heard him pop in because I was looking on the phone. I heard him go like, okay. And then you were like, you there?
We were young and had a blast, making splash, took a bath, now we're all tied up so fast. It's the train, mix your drinks, cut the shit, tricky kid. It's the train, mix the drinks, cut the shit, tricky kid. It's the train, mix your drinks, cut the shit, tricky kid.
That's why I can still hear it. The YouTube is maxed out as well. Derp. I get science. There he is.
Hey, Tim. Sorry about the late start. I had a bunch going on. I couldn't make it here in time.
I'm also
Good evening,
sorry.
chaps. How are you doing tonight?
I was sleeping.
Good. How about
How are you doing tonight,
yourself?
chap? I'm really good, man. How's things your end?
Oh, doing okay. I had a lot going on this past couple weeks, but it's settling down now. We got.
No, can I just go on?
Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say that the tracks we were playing before we sort of like began this conversation, for anyone that may listen, were from the new EP from the Seeding Demons called Belly of the Beast, and it was just released a couple of weeks ago. So I thought I'd preempt playing some of their new tracks. So just to preempt that, over to you, Brady, my man.
Cool. Right on. Yeah, I went and checked them out the other day after. I've been seeing you tweet all the different artists, so I've been just checking it all out. So I've been doing something a little different than music because I'm hoping maybe we can get some other musicians on here and maybe I can paint while someone else plays music for one of the sessions. But I've been doing a bunch of painting lately, and I got one piece here that I'll show everyone. I don't know if you can see all that. Let me back up a little bit. It's kind of a mountain scenery going down into the ocean with some jellyfish going on. But that's what I've been doing lately. So it's not quite done. I still got to work on the details. It's kind of like just the background. Now I'm going to work on all the details.
Okay, from a technical point of view, my friend, I have to ask you. Tell me about the mediums. What have you been using?
I was using acrylic mainly. I was going to use oil, but I decided to just go with all acrylic.
And what have you found? I mean, this was completely someone who's worked with paints and oils and stuff. What have you found the benefits and drawbacks of acrylic? Because I don't use acrylic at all, and I have my own personal thoughts. But from your experience, what have been the benefits and the negatives of using acrylic?
I'll be honest, acrylic is kind of annoying. It dries a little too quickly, and when you use the water to try and get it to kind of start so it's workable again, it tends to kind of get a little kind of pastel looking, and it's a little annoying because of that, which is why I wanted to go with oil. But I already started with acrylic, so I'm just going to finish this one with acrylic, and my next one will be oil because I enjoy oil a lot more. It's easier to work with, it's smoother, it maintains its color. So, but this one, just for now, This one will be acrylic.
Well, another recommendation from someone who's been down the doing this for many years. If you're going to do an oil painting, it doesn't work with acrylic, but I recommend buying some sort of oil-based linseed oil to cover your canvas. Beginning with, it makes the whole experience a lot more smoother. Because one of the things you find with acrylic is you're trying to do a brush stroke, and like you said, the paint will dry before you end your stroke, and you're left with that kind of jagged edged, not the smooth feel that, especially when you're trying to draw clouds and water and stuff. So that's just a little recommendation that I was given, because no one told me about this. I had to discover myself. I went through art college and everything, and nobody ever told me about this little secret of using a medium to make your oil more smooth and applicable. So I always point that out to people when you know.
So you cover the whole canvas in a layer of linseed oil before you start?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, my actual process will be: we'll get in the canvas, and I'll put a layer of linseed oil on it. Then I'll put a layer of white oil, background oil, so a white covering of that on top of the linseed oil. And then, if needed, I'll have a tub of, just a little, maybe an egg cup base of little linseed oil that I'll dip into, but very sparingly if you want to make your paint thinner. But that alone, with a white paint on it, it gives you the freedom. You'll be amazed how quickly you can work in. Because one of the things that, particularly which I sort of seen in your sort of style, you like to do things in a moment, and it gives you the real opportunity to work in that moment, because you'll have maybe 3 or 4 hours and you can get so much done because you're not having to sort of like paint on paint, just drying and drying and drying. You're never having to fight that battle. You've just got this nice wet medium. It's a really for that experience. And the great thing is, once you've done it, let it dry overnight, you can just put another layer on top and do it again and again and again and again, which actually does really well because it starts to layer the whole thing up and gives it real depth. These are just little side tips.
Yeah, it was a little annoying because when I first started, I started with those jellyfish, and they turned out really cool when I first started and looked really like translucent, and then it started drying on me, and it totally lost that translucent effect. So now they kind of just look like heavy, thick paint now. So it was a little frustrating. They turned out okay, but I I was a little frustrated. It is kind of a struggle working with it. So I'll have to give that a
Well,
shot next time.
Well, or even on that painting there, Brady. I mean, for someone who does it, I've done a lot of mail. I'll tweet some out after this show tonight. I've done a lot of paintings with fish, particularly koi fish. I have a particular fascination with koi fish. And what you could do with your painting right there, you've got it, is take it what you've got right now, go to your local craft shop or online, and get a plastic covering like an acrylic, and actually it dries overnight so that you can use them. They're these kind of basically this acrylically plastic that you can pour on, leave it overnight, and it dries, and you get this rock hard, like a vinyl kind of thing over the top, which then you can paint over. So then you have the background will look like the translucent bit, and then you can obviously, because you've got this layer of acrylic, then you're painting on top of that. Man, it gives the depth to that, and it'll bring that picture to life, especially your jellyfish, because it look like the underneath translucent layer, and then you can add the little dots of light or whatever it may be that will give it that complete depth. So that would be, and those liquid acrylics are really easy, cheap and easy. I don't know what they're like in America, but you're not paying more than $10 for it easily.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
and that would bring that painting to life completely, my man.
Okay, I'll have to try that. Yeah, I appreciate the tips because this is really one of my first paintings. My other stuff is all actually everything I do has been a totally different medium. Like when I first started doing art, I would start with colored pencils. Then I went to like chalk and charcoal. Then my next one was like collages of different photographs. Then the next one was a completely different medium. Then the next one was painting. Then the next one was like sculpting. And so I've never done one type of artwork. I've always tried all kinds of different things, and now I'm doing painting.
And what made you kind of, think, oh, I'm going to take up a painting from someone who's, I mean, was there any particular reason? Was it just it just happened? Because I'm always fascinated with this because, as we've discussed many times on this sessions, creativity comes up in music, in writing, in many different forms. And you're generally, I'm not, that's the point, generally you're a musician, that's what you said, so what made you suddenly think, oh, I'm going to do a painting? Because I'm fascinated to know what made you lead that creativity in a painting rather than in a song.
Well, mainly my daughter was getting into painting, and I kind of wanted to just do it together. So we both actually painted one. She's got one that almost looks identical to mine. She was following right along with me, doing the mountains and the jellyfish and the whole scenery. So it was kind of just like just a bonding moment. She's been really getting into painting and wanting to do it. So I just went out and just bought a whole set of paints, and we just went at it and just started painting. So that was that night, and it sat there for about a month, and I hadn't touched it until a few days ago, and then I jumped back on it, and now I'm going to finish it up, and I will probably add it to the mural when I'm done.
Well, cool. Now, one of the things that I think we sort of before maybe whatever you want to discuss. I really wanted to sort of talk about this tonight. I mean, we do a thing called sessions here tonight, and one of the things you don't get to hear a lot, even in podcasts and stuff, you don't get many people sort of talking up new bands or music that's just inspired them. Now, dude, I have a very wide range of music. I'm sure you do, and I'm not saying anything new particularly because I can be. I mean, I put this way. I spent all this week listening to old school Dio, and I was like, oh, this is old. This is fantastic. Listen to a bit of rock and roll children and all fantastic stuff. But generally, I mean, I'd also open it to you and to Chris, man. What particularly right now is music that's you're when you're sort of listening to it, you're waking up in the morning or whatever, and that's a piece of music that right now is it's really kicking you, doing something to you that you really want to elevate. Because I think this is a good opportunity to sort of heighten these bands up because they don't get often many times as people talk about them. So if there's anything particularly that's doing it, pass it on, man, because that's the beauty of music. It's all about spreading the knowledge.
One of the main ones that I've been listening to, because I'm sick of all this mainstream stuff. I just don't listen to it at all. I'm either listening to some of my friends' music, or I'm listening to binaural frequencies and binaural beats and just pretty much like work noise, just like white noise and stuff, just to focus on my work. Otherwise, it's my friends, and the one that I probably listen to the most as of lately is one of my friends. We've done a little bit of collaboration work. He's got a little bit of stuff he's done on some of my tracks, but his name's Sound Position, and you can see him on SoundCloud, and he's pretty good. He's like, he just pumps music out. It's kind of crazy, actually. I'm like, I wish I had that kind of consistency, and it's pretty cool to watch. It's inspiring. So, but that's one of the main ones I've been listening to lately, and that and a few other obscure electronic bands. And the closest to mainstream I think I get would be, and this isn't really all that mainstream, is Steven Wilson. He's done a bunch of tracks for, I think it's, I can't remember the bands he's done. It's some, he's done a bunch of production work for metal bands, but his main band he played in was Porcupine Tree, and so if I listen to something close to mainstream, that's probably about as mainstream as it gets lately.
That's fascinating you say mainstream, man, because I've always sort of, mainstream to me has never been, I have to define mainstream in some sense, because I mean, you know, they're all playing that general stuff, but I mean, the reason I say this, particularly in America, I mean, I don't know, I think there's still an urge from this point of we look over to America and think, well, you know, there is a massive amount of creativity in the States, and that's one of the things I think Americans can be really proud of, is you do have a huge amount of creativity. And there's all these sort of things that we read about over here, maybe because America's so big you don't even aware of it, but I just don't know. I mean, see, for instance, well, from what I understand in America, you can do things like Sirius Radio and stuff. So we over here don't have that much wide of a choice. We literally just have what you're fed in the few channels you're given. But you have more of a wider choice. So when you say mainstream, are you meaning mainstream as in what's generally heard in shopping malls and that, or are you talking about general mainstream as in television?
I guess
I know it's a Morpheus question.
No. There's a bit of culture shock there because it's probably completely different for you, and that's kind of a loaded term when I say mainstream. I don't even really like using the word, to be honest, because it is kind of a loaded word. What I guess the type of music I'm talking about is when you're driving down the road and you just turn on the radio and the most popular stations are playing the same old stuff from all the big artists and pop artists, and a lot of pop music is the stuff that is just pretty much crammed down your throat because they paid for it to be crammed down your throat on all the radio stations and TV and movies, and that's what I mean. And a lot of people listen to that, and I can't stand it. It's I don't listen to it, and generally when it comes on, if someone else wants to hear it, I'll leave it on, and I'm like cringing the whole time. But pretty much I like listening to my friends' music and noise, white noise.
What was the first track piece of music that you kind of like made you sort of open this massive love you have and passion for music? I mean, for me, it was like I remember hearing Deep Purple when I was about 11, or probably even younger than that, and it was like, whoa, this isn't what my old man plays at home. So I mean, is there a particular track or album or?
Yeah, I think the specific one that really built my love for music is probably Pink Floyd and The Wall. That really just did it for me. It was like you just hear those notes and it's just resonates in your brain, and for me anyway, that's it right there. When I was really young, heard that, and it was all over but the crying.
That's fascinating. I mean, man, Pink Floyd. It's amazing how many people I discuss, and that's the album that always comes up. But on Pink Floyd, I mean, my favourite Pink Floyd album is Animals, and again, that was another epoch album for me. But there was something about this. This is what fascinates me. I mean, why do you think it is now that bands aren't doing that, right? I mean, they obviously spent their time getting onto a whole level, taking their time, really enjoying the process. It wasn't about the money or the drugs or the bling bling or the fame. It was actually just about the love of making and trying to push. But we don't see that anymore. And I've always been fascinated. Why?
A big
I
part
don't
of
know
it.
why.
A big part of it, to be perfectly honest, is because you have to be a businessman to do anything with your music these days. And if you don't have a business plan, you can't do anything with your music. I mean, you can, but no one's going to hear it. So you're just some guy in your house playing music unless you want to develop a business plan. And it didn't used to be that way. You would be discovered, and unfortunately that's where all the exploitation of middlemen came in. But those middlemen are really what pushed a lot of those artists to the top and into the public eye globally. And like the Beatles. The Beatles is another one. I still listen to the Beatles. So it was the Beatles and Pink Floyd really is what did it for me.
And those being the two bands I hate the absolute most.
Hey, well, okay, no. Let's hear your perspective though. What's on your palette?
In music lately, I've just been going back to the '90s, and I've been experiencing all the music that I didn't listen to in the '90s. So, like everything that you can find, I've thrown into my Google Music collection, and I've even been sharing with Kevin every once in a while. He'll upload something new, I'll upload something new, and we'll just massive music collection. And,
nice.
I put it all on my phone, and I listen to all of it at work, and it's 30-something hours straight with no repeats.
You introduced me to one band
Spangle.
Spangle. That was another big heavy hitter with electronic music. I didn't really care for electronic music all that much until you showed me Spangle, and I got really into it after that.
Well, my most favorite when it comes on at work and what gets me dancing and moving and like it brightens my day is when the Venga Boys come on.
Oh, goodness, come on.
No one took them seriously. Their music was awful, but god damn if it didn't make you want to dance. It was good.
You listen to the Venga Boys and then you're going to diss Pink Floyd and the Beatles?
Venga Boys were commercial to a point that they knew they were commercial. They knew they were being whored. Okay, so
yeah.
They went all out with it and they had fun with it. And then when they stopped making music, they disappeared and no one talked about them again except for me years later. So, Pink Floyd, they're still doing the concerts and the light shows and all this and that. They're still just raking in cash on the name.
Yeah.
Playing a disc and having a light show. It's like
that's what I don't like about a lot of these bands that got sucked up by big companies and corporations. It is just a name. I mean, I went to the Eagles concert I think recently, and like I don't even think there's any of the original band members anymore. And they're like, it's the Eagles, kinda, not really, but it's the songs, and we own them. So give us your money, and you can listen to these songs again. It's like shit. I think one member is still the original. That and the Allman Brothers, I think they're the same situation.
I don't like any of those.
AC/DC, a perfect example, dude. I mean, when Brian Johnson was apparently, left because of his hearing, and then they replaced him, you're thinking maybe they're going to do it like they did with Bon Scott, and it was because Bon Scott reason Brian Johnson became the lead singer was it was Bon Scott that recommended him. He'd heard Brian Johnson singing and went, he'd be perfect for AC/DC. And at the time you thought, okay, this is what's going to happen now. Brian Johnson's going to hand it across. But no, when they brought Axl Rose in, and I would just recommend, even if the moment you're feeling a bit depressed in your life, go and put on Axl Rose, got AC/DC live. It's hilarious. There's him sat there as he is now, Fat Axl, because he's broken his legs, so he sat there in a chair trying to sing out, like Thunderstruck, sat in his chair with his broken leg. It's just, like you said, it's a bit like, there's a joke over here, there's a program over here. And one of the jokes was there was a street cleaner, and he had this joke about how I've had this broom for 26 years. And the guy says to him, wow, the same broom for 26 years, and you swept the streets with the same broom for 26 years. That's amazing. He says, oh no, I've had 16 different heads and 16 different sticks, but it's still the same triggers broom. And that's exactly what most bands are now, aren't they? They're in that whole process of, like you said, they're just almost a cover band of a cover band of a cover band. And it's really sad to say, but Do you know one of the things I want to linger on it, Brady, because I'm fascinated with what you said, because we're talking about how, yeah, like back in the day they had more of a time and stuff. But more of my point I was trying to get to is, we listen to those bands. We still listen to bands in the 60s and 70s, and there's always, you know, good and bad. The albums we're generally talking about, of that kind of music. What I'm trying to say is, we don't hear that kind of music made anymore. We don't hear.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying let's not repeat Pink Floyd or repeat the, you know, that. But I'm trying to say, there's none of that bands.
The heart and soul that was put into it.
Yeah, or even doing that experimentation anymore. It's just all about, like you said, and I'm fascinated. Like, we all listen to that kind of music, but nobody wants to make that music anymore. Everything, for instance, is into everything's now 3 or 4 minutes long, and it's ridiculous that we still live in this world where we've got 3 or 4 minute songs in a world where we're not really focused on radio charts anymore. And I'm just fascinated. Like, why? I mean. That was good music. We still listen to it. So why aren't bands going out there and doing that now? And they're still trying to make that 3-minute hit, even though they know that they could probably be remembered in 20 years if they actually push the boundaries a bit. I'm always fascinated by that.
It's because the only thing musicians care about these days is making tons of money and trying to hang on to that glorious, like, rock star lifestyle that really is dying faster and faster every day. I mean, I really can't wait until independent artists can really just, like, actually, like, start doing their music the way on their own, with no strings attached, no middlemen, and actually make a living and put their all into it and not have to focus on anything else. But I think we're a little ways out, but it's coming. I mean, we just got to get some of these technologies that make things automated and remove middlemen more and more. And maybe one day that renaissance of music will finally appear. It's not here yet, but I can feel it coming. Faster and faster.
Oh, I totally agree, and I mean, I think one of the things, like you just said then, I mean, it's that whole. Is there really anybody that actually? I mean, all you've got to do is listen to any musician who goes out on tour and who's supposed to be this celebrity, right? None of them enjoy it. None of them. No. They hate every minute of it, and this is the old thing. The real mind shift and the real paradigm shift, I think, is when people go, actually, instead of, like you said, striving towards the fame and the celebrity and the money, and thinking, actually seeing it for what it is, all that fame, all that money, it just makes it's like gilding your cage. You're becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. You can't do, your world is becoming, well, you can't do anything. I mean, we discussed this before, man. We can have this discussion. You try being in this discussion if it was like Bruce Dickinson and whatever out of other bands. Their management would let them do that. And that's the thing about the further you want to go up the tree of being a rock star, the less freedom you have. And that's I'm amazed that people still think, oh, what I'm going to do? I'm going to become a rock star because that'd be great. And you think, really? What's the appeal of having all that?
Yeah, well, it's not. I mean, you can hear it in anyone who is making buttloads of money from what's left of the adulterated, putrid, dying corpse that is the music industry. They hate it, and you hear it in the music. You hear that hatred. You hear that plastic, fake sound. That's why we're not hearing anything with soul and heart and honesty. And really, that's what it all boils down to. Is there's nothing honest about music anymore, except for independent artists. I mean, you hear these total joke bands. Some guy in his garage just giving it his all, talking about a chunk of meat. I was listening to this guy just saying how he was a chunk of meat the other day, and I was listening to it, and it was a terrible song. It really was, but he was into it, you know, the way people used to be into it. And it may have been a horrible song, but there was a difference. It was honest. It was real. You could hear like him like enjoying what he was doing. And even though it was a terrible song, I actually sat there and listened to 4 of his songs and was like, wow, that's better than most of this garbage I'm hearing on the radio.
Well, Chris, I mean, it's open to you. If you like electronic music from the 90s, are you aware of a band called KLF who basically made all their money, then burnt it all in a public show, and they went to a warehouse in the middle of London and burnt everything, all their cash? I was wondering, did that ever make America? Are you aware of KLF?
I was big into the music. I didn't really follow any information at all from anywhere because I thought the information made it less pure to enjoy. So, like, half the artists, their names, I didn't know them. Like, I know that song, but I have no idea who wrote it.
I know these words.
I know these words. I know that. I have that CD somewhere. I don't know which one it is. There's a stack of
I
them.
think I'm kind of sick of words, to be honest. I think words ruin music 9 times out of 10. I mean, if they just didn't open their mouth, it would have been the most epic, glorious song. And then all of a sudden the words came out and I just stopped listening.
Well, the two major kinds of music, like instruments and person talking, and mixing them together, kind of no.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm guilty of it too. Like, I'll write a song and I'm like, wow, I really like where I'm going with this song. And then someone's like, yeah, you should put some lyrics to it. And then I do it. And then I just never play the song ever again because then I hate it. I'm like, damn it. I started talking about like some ex I had or some crappy job. And now the song has just been like turned into this very lame, like washed out garbage. I don't know. I miss concertos and classical music. I actually still listen to classical music just because there's no words.
I like a little
Have you
when I can't understand the words. It's another language. That works.
I like listening to foreign language music because I don't know what it's saying. It's just an instrument.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the? It's on YouTube, and I think it's one of the, I think it's actually classed as one of the oldest actual recordings of the human voice, and it's of a falsetto opera singer. You know, the boys who they used to cut their penises off. And dude, when you hear this grown man singing like that, and you think, wow, that was just 100 years ago. That was what everybody was going towards. This is what always fascinates me about music. They are just timepieces about where we stand as you know, as a culture. And it's amazing to me, like I said before, some pieces will hold through, you know, decades, and other pieces you hear them 2 weeks later and think, why did I like that 2 weeks ago? It was nasty. It's like a nasty virus, and you're like, really? What did I even give that the time of day for? But other pieces you can hear, and they still, and that's what I'm saying. I still listen to, you're the same. I love listening to tracks, and you can not listen to a track maybe for 15 years, and you go, oh wow, and it just takes you back to that moment, and it's amazing. They are like, this is what I think music is. So I think it's a switch, and it's that part of the human consciousness that we have. That you know, I'm sure if you played a dog a piece of music, he wouldn't have a memory. Maybe he does, but we have. It's locked in, and I think that's what I love about music. But like you say, the whole thing needs to change, because I mean, what people think music are, and let's be real about this, what people think music are in these days, and it's ridiculous. It goes back to what I've always said: is anyone can do anything, but anyone can put some canvas on a paint. It doesn't make you a painter. What makes you really do it if you put the hours? You've got to put the hours in. You know, as a musician, you can't just. Anyone can pick up a guitar and play C, and great. And I'm not saying anyone shouldn't. That's the whole basis of a lot of music. But to become proficient in something takes a lot of hard work, and that's where we are right now. We live in a culture where everything is vacuous and short-lived. You know?
Well, you know what I'm hoping for is, I think music needs to move beyond, because I mean, music has always like evolved based on new technologies that have been developed, and new instruments have been created, and I love new instruments that someone just gets just creative and just makes. I saw this crazy instrument someone made out of all these little cans and steel balls, like just that type of creativity. I love it, and a hand pan. From pan art. Like, I love those things, those little saucer-shaped hand pans that were created by pan art. They have the most amazing sound, and it was just something they just created, and it's a new art form, is just making those new instruments. But I think that's not. I think it's moving even further with technology. Like, we have a lot of electronic music that actually created a lot of really interesting ways that you can affect human emotions and perception of music and sound. Like I was explaining, I listen to a lot of binaural beats and frequencies when I'm working because it helps me focus. And I really like it because I can be in a terrible mood and I can put that stuff on, and it just takes all that negative energy and emotion completely out of it, and it makes you really realize how powerful sound in general really is with the human mind. Because like you said, why did I like that song last week? Okay, well, a lot of it has to do with the mood you were in that moment, and now you're in a completely different mood this week, so now you think it's a terrible song, and who knows, maybe you'll think it's a good song again in the future. And it really shows you how emotionally affected humans are by music and sound. So I think that's kind of an indicator of where sound and music is going to go here in the near future. They have these new speakers that are directional speakers. Like you can actually like point it like 100 yards away, and only the person you're pointing it at can actually hear the sound. It's called hypersonic audio. And I think that's really neat, and I would love to get a bunch of those speakers in one room on like a conveyor belt and play different audio tracks as it's spinning around my head, and like compose music onto each one of those speakers and have it spin around and hit different ones. And I don't know, that's my dream, is just have a conveyor belt with directional audio, but that might be horrible. Who knows, my head might pop.
Well, if you're going to do that, you have to do a horizontal conveyor belt and a vertical conveyor belt, because Sennheiser's put out a new virtual reality microphone. It's got 4 crossing directional mics.
Okay.
So they can record in 3D.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, see, that's what I'm saying. I think technology and music is going to get really interesting, because if you think about, well, like virtual reality specifically, you'd be able to take a multi-directional camera, stick it right on stage with a musician, and add these multi-directional recording techniques, and have your audience pay for a ticket to sit right there in front of the live streamed performance, and it's like you're sitting there actually looking around on stage while it's being live streamed. And that's what's coming. I wish I was one of the first ones to do it. I know one of these damn middlemen are going to be the first ones to do it, but it's kind of neat to think about, and I think that's the next stage, is because then it allows you like 100 million people to be sitting right in front of that musician, like you're sitting there at a barbecue, actually sitting there and actually looking around with one of these Oculus VR headsets on. And I don't know, I bet we're about 10 years out until it's just amazing, like you're actually sitting there, but it's coming, and it's going to be epic.
I'd rather the hologram projection of the artist in my living room. I think that'd be better.
That would be cool. That would be cool. No, virtual reality makes people sick. It might be a bad idea. You just have your whole audience throwing up. I don't know. What do you?
With some of the music out there, that probably would be a bad thing, having your audience throw up.
It's part of the performance. Brown noise.
Well, I don't know if you're aware, I mean, there's also, you talk about the directional mic. There's also one called, I don't know what it's exactly called, but it's basically the ability to, through pointing directional mics, you can actually get visions from it, actual visuals from the sound waves. Anyway, yeah. I've always thought that you take this 10, 15 years time, and all that's going to come, we're going to get to the point, I think it's going to get to the point where you basically be able to, one way or the other, because I think the idea of virtual glasses are going to go, they're just going to meld into your brain. You're just going to have a chip, or it's just going to be a pill you swallow, and it'll just be like that. But you're going to have the point very soon, I think one of the intermediary steps will be, you'll be able to go back, because of the computing power, they'll be able to go back and record any gig you like, and you can sit in any gig, and you'll be able to go back to Dylan in the 50s, or Chuck Berry, or back to some old blues guy, because all they've got to do is render it again, and we've got enough digital information, and they can fill it in, and that's where it's going to come really, like you said, it's going to be a different world completely, because man, this is what I've always said. I mean, we open this rabbit hole yet again, but can you imagine this? But we talk about this, but is it going to be a world where everybody's never going to leave their house, and you can walk around the streets and nobody will be doing anything? And it will be like some sort of apocalypse, because
I'm pretty agoraphobic. I'm afraid of that, just because I know how I am. I'm like, if I didn't have to leave my house, would I? I don't know. I probably wouldn't. And that's probably not a good thing for society. I have a daughter, though, so I have to leave the house. So at least if we all just have children, then you have to leave the house. And there you go. Till you get older, then you just don't leave your house. Well, the kids are out of the nest. I'm not leaving the house ever again. I make a living from Made Safe. Kiss my ass.
Yeah, but it's, it's one of those. It's
The
one
silence.
Of those truths. There's one of those truths, and the other one as well, man. While we're talking about music, and I think one of the things that, again, if we're going to tap upon things not spoken about, maybe I'm the only person who was like, really? Come and join the boat, Tim. But I tell you, all my life, it's always frustrated me that in 90%, I'll say even higher, 98% of films I watch, the minute a soundtrack comes up, I'm like, that's it, I can't watch this film. I do not need some director telling me how I should be feeling by the violins or by something, I don't need that, man. I'm an intelligent being, I can make up my own mind. And I just get so frustrated, and I always have done. And I know it's a very lonely camp I sit in and go, because if me, I was like, no, take all music away from films, unless it's just music. But generally, that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm by myself, but hey.
I don't know. No, Tim, I still watch silent films. When I have free time, I watch a silent film. Screw it. Silent. No words. No sound. No music. Just acting. And that's enjoyable. It's relaxing. And you have that there. And if you want, you can put on your own music if you really feel like it needs a soundtrack. Hey, that might be a good Made Safe app. Strip audio from things and let people put in their own audio tracks.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's coming. I mean, Brady, how long is it going to be? What you just said then about concerts? I mean, I think it's going to be very soon. Where basically the idea of where we see films from just one perspective, from what the director wants to give us, is soon going to become where you're going to be able to walk around movies. You're going to be able to walk around Avatar. You're going to walk around Star Wars and see the film from any direction you like, from any character, and the multiple stories. You can stop it there and put. It's just going to become like this, these online live streams. That it won't have films anymore. It'd be like, this is a new life. This is a new planet. Go on there, live in that world. And films will be so that we'll look. Future generations in 15 years, like, will look back at films like we look back at silent movies. Like, oh, they're cute.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and there's going to be this little subgroup of guys like me that still watch them and don't watch all the new stuff. I don't know. I think things are getting like too complicated to the point where people are just not going to be enjoying the simple things in life. Like you said, I think a couple episodes ago, you were like, people need to just go outside, take a walk at night, and look up at the stars, and just look. And that's something people are doing less and less. And the things we're talking about are really neat and amazing. And I'm a technology addict, I'll admit, but that's making people do that less and less and less every day. And that might be what's wrong with everyone. Stop. Look up. We're on a rock spinning around in space.
Exactly.
Think about it.
And that's the thing. Exactly. And I mean, the thing about that as well, when you start to, not only do you realise that, but you start to realise that not only are we just spinning on that rock through space, that whole of our galaxy is just being spinning towards when you really put all this in perspective, it's kind of like, why? I swear, this is why I say it. I swear, the reason I say about going walking out and something like, because I'm not afraid to say this. I'm a human being. I'm a man. I've suffered from depression in my life, and the thing that's got me through has been doing that, because it suddenly puts you into perspective. Whoa, actually, you know what I mean? And it from both sides, when people say, "Oh, you're paranoid," I'm like, "Yeah, damn right, I'm paranoid. I'm on a rock that's tumbling through space." But actually, that's what I should be paranoid about, not what the neighbour next door thinks.
Yeah, it's that existential dread that reminds you you're alive. No, it's
not being.
It's good for you.
Let's be real about that, dude. It's not only the fact that we're the existential and we're alive. How fortunate that is. I mean, we how fortunate we are to have this conversation, this time, and to be alive in these days. Like you said, we're on this cusp of technology that 60, 70 years ago, man They would have loved to have been in this time. And this is what I'm saying. Just the act of breathing and being alive. I know it sounds so cliche and cheesy, but it is such a great gift that we all forget. We all of us forget. We're all, even me. I'm guilty of it, and I try to live my life by it. But at times you just think, wow. Do you know what I mean? There's an eternity of existence of emptiness, and we've got this one little experience. And in this experience, we can have these conversations. How amazing is that? And it's
Tim, I think you were talking about having depression issues and stuff, and everyone kind of deals with that, and how that just going out and looking up at the stars and seeing how small we are, and the fact that we are tumbling through this rock is kind of a part of like getting over that. But at the same time, there's one other component that you need, and that's to go do that, realize how small you are, and then do what we're doing right now and actually connect with other people. Because like without this, it's like a two-part thing. You have to do that, realize how small you are, and then go, okay, I'm going to go talk to my friends on sessions now. Because it's, and it does. I mean, this makes me feel great. Like out of the whole month, like I've been through a lot in just the past couple of weeks, and sitting down here on sessions just kind of makes me just, okay. Look up at the stars, see how small I am, and talk to my friends, and I feel a little better today.
Oh no, dude! I mean, this is the very essence of what it's about. I mean, I don't know how much you want to discuss it. I'm happy to discuss this, but I've lost friends this year, and this is one of the things, and I always bang on about this. People always at those moments, and this is what I don't like about funerals and gatherings, because you hear the same old thing like, oh, it's put my life in perspective, and why do I work so hard, and why do I push for promotion? It's really made me want to. And people say this at funerals, and then you see them 6 weeks later, and it's like they're still striving for the promotion. Still worried about the credit card, still worried about the mortgage, and it's like one of these things. Is why I always sort of say that this is the cold reality of life. We are going to die. I mean, I know we all think we're not, but we are all going to die, and that's why I say what is true, because, like you said, it's not only raising the humility of how small we are in this universe, but equally that great gift, and this great gift is about to do what you just said. It's connecting with human beings, because, man, how great is that gift? Is that? And it's, trust me, man. You talk to. This is why I like a lot of things. It's like everything when people. This is why I think it's balanced. Whenever you sort of think, oh, my life's this, that, and the other. Just imagine if it was the other way around. This is what kind of got me through a lot of times. I went around and out. I looked out at the universe, realised how small I was, and then thought, okay. Now imagine myself in a situation where I couldn't escape this, and I was locked in a cell, and I couldn't have the ability to talk to anyone. How much of a nightmare would that be? But I haven't. I've got the ability to walk through that door and make a friend and connect with somebody and do it again and again and again. And that is a reality again. We've got that reality, and this is why I always try to emphasise that we mustn't forget how fortunate we are to have these conversations, because there's plenty of people who would love to have this conversation in the world right now, and they haven't got the ability to. And that's a fortunate thing we've got, not only being alive, but we've got this ability to connect. And that's why I get frustrated doing that. It drives me like a passion when I see people who have this awareness and then just don't do anything about it and put their heads under the parapet and don't talk to anybody else. And I think it's just it drives me with passion, because I just, like you said, that locking yourself away is just is an inevitable path to depression, and that leads to dark areas. And that's, like you said, it's a duality. It's a duality of realizing you're humble but connecting. You're absolutely spot on when you said that.
There's one other thing though, is a lot of people, like I'm very agoraphobic. I don't really like going out. I don't go out very often, and this is my going out. And like you said, a lot of people, they have this option, even for the people who don't like to go out. And it's like, for me, this is my going out. And it might seem lame to some people, but I mean, shit, I love this. This is awesome for me. And like you said, if you have that option, you need to do it, because there's still like billions and billions of people in this world who just don't have that option, and it doesn't make me feel good, especially that I can hang out with Chris right now, and well, we live in the same town where we get to actually hang out, even though we don't have to leave our house. So it's he's probably he's more agoraphobic than I am, so it's like it's a win-win. I love this, but. I am working. Sessions has actually been pulling me out of my shell a little bit. So, Tim, I got to thank you, because I always say you're like people glue. You're that you're one of those people in this world that just kind of glues people together, and we need more people like you. We really do.
Well, no, I think it's not. I think it's a simple case, dude, and I think it ties into what you just said then. And this is why I think it's. I don't think it's something we can, dance around anymore. We need human beings to connect with human beings because it's nothing special, dude. Look, this conversation that's the whole point of it. What we really need is real conversations because once you do connect with people around the world, and I'm witness to this, and my life has been one of testimonies to this. You meet people and you think, oh wow, it doesn't matter where you're from on this rock, we all have exactly the same experience, and there's 90% of the stuff we agree on. We may disagree, and those things we disagree on are inbred things about team this, team that, go team red, go team blue, go this person, and that's all just been inbred, but that's a very small perspective of most human beings, because and that's why it's important for people to connect, and that's the great thing about having these conversations, because it can be a real conversation. That's why I say this. You're not going to have this kind of conversation on CBS or BBC and stuff because there's filters in the way. And what real conversations need is this: real conversations and real people being real people and coming and being honest and true with each other. And that's, to me, is something that's so easy to do, so powerful, but people aren't doing it. But when you do, it's such a powerful, because people go, oh, man, I've been thinking that all my life, and I've just been, wow, you're so brave that you say that, but I've been thinking, I'm like, yeah, but you could do exactly the same, and that's getting over that fear, which is the fourth element of what we're talking about. It's getting over the fear and realizing that fear is only fear itself, and you can defeat it. There's nothing to be afraid, because like we've gone back to it relates to the very first point. Why be afraid when we're on a rock that's tumbling through space? That's enough to keep us fearful. Being afraid of talking to another human being isn't really much of an excuse, is it really?
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people do have panic attacks too going in public. So at least we have the internet. I will say this though.
I try to shy away from the use of fear and excuse, because it's not an option for some people. It's just not possible. Therefore, it's not an excuse. They can't.
Because of anxiety and panic. Yeah.
So
you're talking about anxiety, panic attacks, and the stuff like I was talking about.
For whatever reason, some people cannot communicate with other people, cannot talk with other people. So yeah. I would shy away from, they don't have no excuse. It's like, I wouldn't call it an excuse. They have a reason, and not to really mess up the conversation or mince words. Just some people do have justifiable absolute.
Yeah, well, that's a condition, and that's unfortunate too, and that's I don't know. I'll be honest. I've dealt with panic attacks and anxiety my whole life, and things like, sessions here, like when I say it's kind of pulling me out of my shell, I have kind of made a connection with my outside world because of the internet, and it's made me want to actually go outside of my house to other places in the world. I've actually traveled because of the internet, and I probably wouldn't have if it wasn't for the internet. Like Tim, I would probably come visit you now just because of sessions and travel all the way across the world just to come have an actual conversation face to face with you. And if it wasn't for the internet, I probably wouldn't even attempt to do that. So, but I'm kind of when it comes to my anxiety and issues like that, I'm more of a immersion therapy type person. I'm going to force myself to go do something that is extremely uncomfortable just to maybe get over it. I generally don't. I'm generally uncomfortable every time I go travel, but I go do it anyway.
I made it to the grocery store for the first time in 6 months on Sunday. I'm making progress too.
Well, there you go.
It was necessity.
Can I just make this completely clear, dude? I mean, I not only do I think isolation is a positive. I think a lot of people. I think it's something. Put it this way, when you talk about their brain, it always makes me laugh when you say about being a group of people. Dude, if I could quite easily just go and just disappear and just go and live by myself with my two loved ones and never see another human being in my life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. I think the general point I was trying to make is, I mean, I was giving the general overview about, there's a lot of people living in communities like blocks of flats, and I mean, I've just been over in Copenhagen, and I saw it a lot over there. You saw lots of high rises and people living amongst people but never connecting with anyone around them, and that's what I'm trying to mean. And I understand completely what you're saying, Chris. Dude,
Yeah.
Man, I'm an artist, man. I sit, and I'm sitting here talking to you, ridiculous time of night when everyone's asleep. I know completely what it's like. But what I'm trying to say is, if you're in that really kind of state of mind, you don't have to go out and talk to anybody, but you can, man, we do as kids, you can write to people, there's a way of communicating, because there is that need for some sort of contact. And it doesn't mean putting your face above the parapet or having loads of friends around, but you can have some sort of connection. It doesn't even, and this be really real about it, when it comes into life, all this thing about, oh, I've got 5,000 followers on Twitter, or I've got 150 people like, no. When it comes down to life, as you both know, let's be real, we're all men in this conversation. When it comes down to it, you maybe have 5, if you're lucky, in your life, who are going to be your people who you're going to be relied on, and that's going to be about it. And they're the ones you need to concentrate on, the ones that you really, really know that have got your back, because the world, and this is one of the things that I speak from an older perspective here, the world is full of charlatans and snakes they think you find out who your true friends are, exactly what you just said, Chris. When you go away and you sit in the middle of nowhere and you don't talk to anyone, then you realise who your real friends are. That's the moment you realise. And the ones who do come, you hold them like a motherfucker, and you hold them tight, because they're the ones that you know that have got your back. The rest of them, that's the point of humanity. What I'm trying to say is, there's always a point. If you're in that block of flats, you can connect to someone. Yeah, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the neighbour next door, but connect to somebody, because there is that element of humanity that needs to connect. And that's what I love about these times. We don't have to sit that when we've never met you face to face. We have these conversations. Most of our conversations are done through messaging. Brilliant. But at least we're having some sort of conversation. At least I know that there is a Brady out there is a Chris out there. You know that if you ever come to Scotland as a Timmy, I know if I ever land in your part of the world, I'm like, okay, I've got somewhere I can go. That means so much. That's what I mean about the human contact. We don't have to know each other's inside leg measurements or what we like to eat or that. That doesn't matter. We just need to know that we're all there as human beings on this rock and got each other's back. And that's how I see it.
I think modern society too is it's really bad about disjoining people and drawing them away from each other and pushing people apart from each other's. On top of the anxieties and personal issues you already have, society kind of pushes you away from other people. Like here in the United States, it's like, okay, you're 18, go out of the house, get out of the nest, go to college, and go away. And it didn't used to be like this for the longest time. I mean, when we were tribes of people, it was like, we all stuck really close together in our little tribe, and that slowly just turned into this, okay, get the hell out of my house kind of thing. And it's kind of a weird thing. It's not the nature of humans, and it's kind of strange. And I don't know, I think the internet's kind of reversing that in a very strange kind of way, because we're like hundreds and thousands of miles away from a lot of the people we're talking to, but it's starting to create that tribal-like mentality again, and it's interesting, exciting, and very strange because of the way it's happening all at the same time.
Don't you sort of think this is maybe the glimpse of what we're going to go into on a general basis? And I'm fascinated opening up to you two, because you're in a country that's open more to this one. But don't you think we're going to come a time where maybe we're in the era right now of being bound by states and flags? We're going to enter virtual nations, and we're going to go, okay, what links us together is what actually makes us, more mindset, and we can do this on a virtual way, and we've got our own virtual states. And I think, again, this is maybe where it's going to come from maybe first. And I know that your particular location in America, you've got that kind of very much independent, off-grid kind of spirit. So do you think that's going to be the way it's going to happen in 5 and 10 years' time? And if so, do you think that's possible to do? Because bear in mind what Chris was just saying, there are many people, especially around our community, who are very intelligent but very much don't want to be part of this hippy-dippy, I'm all part of one big group stuff. And I think that's brilliant. I've got nothing against that completely. So I'll open up to both of you, really, to hear your side, Brady, and to Chris, really, because I want to hear both sides of that opinion.
Go for it, Chris.
I think it is possible. I don't think it's possible within the next 30 to 40 years, because time frames and this and that, adopting technology and all. But there are basically two classes of anxious people. There's the people like Brady who can cope. They can learn to deal with it. They can force themselves. And then there are people like me who have 2 cats, and that's life. People like myself don't have children. Our species doesn't go further. We are just now mutants in society, and every once in a while one will pop up with 2 more cats or 30 cats or however many cats it takes to make them feel like a decent person. And then there are ones like Brady who are like, okay, well, gene pools mixing here and there, we can still branch into society off for our own little section. And then there's the rest of humanity, like yourself, Tim, who can go and talk to people. And because you can, there's no reason to invent the technology or to invent the virtual nations. I mean, you can have it there as a little hobby. You can talk to this group of people, and you talk to this club or this international commune, and you can be part of it. But in order to make that an actual government or governing body of any kind of rules and actual substance, I don't see that as entirely possible until someone like me can get laid. Not gonna happen.
All right. Yeah, that deserves an applause. Speech of all speeches.
That's the drop the mic moment, man.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, hang on.
Done.
I'm gonna give you my perspective, but let me grab a drink really quick, and I'll give you my spiel.
Yeah, need a rebuttal for that one. Shit.
Just out of interest, Chris, why cats, not dogs, dude?
Cats are easier to handle. I don't have to like take them for walks. I can open the door and they'll be gone for a day or 2, and then they'll come back wanting more food. With dogs, there's leash laws and larger bags of food, and cats, when they cuddle, they purr, and that's nice.
Do you have coyotes around where you are, or is that too much of a? I don't know.
We have lots of coyotes out here. There used to be a pack. Like last year, there was a pack of at least 30 of them roaming around the pasture out back. But when there's no food around, they migrate onwards, and you just don't let the small animals out for a year or 2, or if you do, they die, and they're only a meal for 1 or 2 coyotes, and
So how will you handle, dude? I mean, this is what I'm saying. I'm asking this because I live in Scotland, where the most vicious creature I'm going to come across is maybe an angry squirrel or something. But I mean,
or your neighbor.
Yeah, or my neighbour. But how do you deal with coyotes, dude? I mean, on a day-to-day reality basis. I mean,
basically a 22 caliber rifle, just out the window. You just wait for them to call, and you whistle, or you have one of your cats going meow, or you have the neighbor's dog barking. The coyotes will come up and pop. That one's down, and the others will all run off for a week or 2, and they'll come back and do it again and again until they're gone, or they run off somewhere else. Dealing with them, you just either you kill them or you ignore them. That's really your only 2 options.
And do you have any mountain cats around?
They're rare, but we have had a couple of mountain lions in the past decade, I guess. I've heard of like 6 or 7 of them in the past decade. Since there's not a lot of livestock out here, because it's golf community, schools, and it's becoming less rural. So mountain lions are becoming less here, less popular.
So wait, I'm gonna get this right. So golf communities, man. What private golf? I mean, why is there a sudden urge for golf in New Mexico? I mean, it doesn't sort of strike me as a place you want to go play golf in.
I live like 5 miles from the most southern ski resort in America, and so we have 7 golf courses around to like pay for those people to have jobs during the summer. It's basically. That's it. 7 golf courses, 2 casinos. It's a tourist trap town, so we have all the touristy stuff.
So,
but I mentioned. Let's just quickly mention this before we leave this one. But as I understand it, New Mexico isn't exactly full of water, so they must be draining loads of resources and water just to feed those.
It's
golf
annoying.
courses.
Yeah, it's annoying.
It is really annoying, but we also live up on a mountain, so it's a different climate, and there is rain here, and We're not the lowlanders. We don't live in the desert. we're not.
No,
we're
but
not
there is a
those.
lot less water than there should be for golf courses. Like,
Yeah.
golf courses seem ignorant as hell, in my opinion, even though we have more water than
Well,
people lower down.
we as regular people who live in the community get charged a water bill, a bill to use water, and then there's 7 golf courses that have to water their lawns daily to keep the grass green. Well, Brady has to pay a water bill. I have a well, so I'm cheating the system. But yeah, they're draining off the same aquifer that I use, and my water gets less and less pure by the day, and there's more fertilizer in my water now than there was 20 years ago because there's 6 more golf courses than there were 20 years ago.
Yeah. At least they're not fracking up here.
Yet.
Yeah, no kidding. So to go back to the initial question there before I went to go get a drink, I wanted everyone to kind of linger on Chris's speech, though, because that was a good one. My perspective, which is the technocentric technology addict perspective and blockchain distributed network and DApp junkie, I already see micronations developing, except for the fact that because it's so disjointed, it's breaking off into more tribal-like states rather than like nation states. And the reason I say that, a lot of people might argue, but what I'm seeing right now is someone showed me a list of developing apps for groups of people. And instead of looking at apps and deploying it to certain nation states and countries of people, they were actually including Google and Facebook social networks as a country, because they very much are when you're deploying an app, because you're going to be putting the app to use in those groups. So what we're seeing right now is the virtual nations right now are actually larger than the actual nation states in the world at the moment. Like, Facebook is currently the largest virtual nation on Earth, and blockchain technology in the United States and other regions in the in the world are all developing laws and regulations for nation states to deal with virtual currencies. And what that has caused is laws that allow Facebook to deploy its own currency system. It already has its own governance system. It's very dictatorship style, but it has a governance system, a currency system, and people, which is by definition what it takes to create a nation. And they are currently the largest nation on Earth, which kind of scares me considering it's a dictatorship. So here's the thing. Considering the laws allow a digital nation state to exist now, and blockchain technology and smart contracts are going to allow a form of decentralized governance in a digital space that creates governance and laws for that nation state. So now we are a hop, skip, and a jump less than 10 years away from digital nation states and dictatorships being a reality. Luckily, there's alternative systems that are a little more open than Facebook, but they are very tribal in nature. So we're going to deal with the same thing humans have dealt with throughout the centuries, except in the virtual space instead of on actual land and in the real world, which is going to be large nation states against small tribes and groups of people. And that's going to happen in less than 10 years is my estimate, because of how fast this technology is developing. So it's a little weird and intimidating to think that if Facebook deploys a currency, they're basically the largest nation state on Earth, and everyone just has to kind of deal with that. And if they deployed some type of income system, it's over. Everyone's just going to flock to that, and everyone's already talking about basic incomes. Everyone's already talking about apps that pay you. Facebook already has a couple apps that pay you to play. I mean, we're not very far off from people just flocking to Facebook if they choose to just become the de facto global nation of people. And it's kind of creepy to think about, to be honest. So what I'm seeing is people are going to have to start taking these tribal-like mentalities and grouping up with one another with similar mentalities. And I watched, I'm watching a lot of technologies like IPFS and Swarm and Made Safe and Ethereum, causing people to, allowing them to actually have the tools to build the competing nations, digital nations that will compete with the digital dictatorships. And it's the same story, different costumes, and now it's in digital space instead of actual physical space. The only thing is we also have another factor to play into all this, and that's the people who reject technology and the people who fully accept technology, which is going to also cause a very, very strong split between, technocrats and everyone else. And when you have that, you also create a whole other group of people. Because, I mean, you have the people who computers, technology, and virtual nations don't exist because a computer is just a glowing box in their room, and they don't think of it as anything beyond that. It's just, they're still living in a traditional world where a nation is a physical chunk of land with a governing body and laws. And they don't understand that there's a whole new thing developing. So you're going to have a very strange dichotomy between the two mentalities, especially if that dichotomy is a group of people that rejects technology and accepts technology. And it's hard to say who those people are going to be because it's a very internal decision. It's not going to be based on nation states. So that tribal-like mentality that I'm talking about, it's going to be very weird because you're going to have to try and talk people into accepting something that they reject in general, like virtual reality, digital currencies, biotech, gene therapy, all the crazy technology. I mean, there's going to be people that just flat out reject it. So it's kind of weird, but at the same time, yes, we do have, within 10 years, in my opinion, I see micro nations developing on the internet and in digital space.
Well, it's interesting you discuss there, Brady. You were saying about how the people who reject it. I mean, dude, you spoken to me 10 years ago. I was the guy like, no, I'm never going to move from my mobile phone. It does the trick. I don't need to do anything other than... And we all do. And the thing is about now, you struggle to meet, most people now, and most people understand how, digital radio works, how digital TV works, how the mobiles work. They kind of that's one of the things that I've been old enough and I've witnessed in my lifetime is that every new paradigm of technology, it becomes easier and easier and more instinctive to use. And equally, go back to it, and again, I mean, it's that level. I mean, yeah, we can, especially in America. I mean, you have the Amish, but I mean, they're a very small subsect of society. I mean, there may be people going, "Oh, well, I'm not going to go into this, that, and the other." But isn't it just generally how the herd moves and how we just move forward as a species? I mean, how many people now are giving? It's like all the time I hear over here, and people go, "Oh, well, man, I want to get in touch with Mother Earth," and I'm like, "Okay, we're going to have a natural pregnancy." Well, I am. I'm going to go to hospital and give birth in the water. I'm like, "Well, no, natural birth is going down to the river and having your birth on a riverside with all that. That's real nature, and that's what I'm trying to say. When these people go, "Oh, I reject technology," you're like, well, yeah, but you're not the guy who's living out as Chris would say, out in the middle of the woods doing nothing, living off a well. You've got, everybody has a bit of technology. So I just generally think that the herd goes towards more generally with technology, and what they find scary that maybe now that in 10 years time people will adopt. I mean, man, 10 years ago there was all the argument about GM foods, and people we don't have that argument anymore now. People just eat food. They had the same argument about, oh, well, they're going to open if we open up the internet, it's going to lead to, like all these things, it's always the fear stories. But I'm interested in how much you think that percentage would be who won't adopt any of this at all. You focused on that quite a bit and saying there's going to be that subsect of people who will never adopt it. How big do you think that community is going to be?
I don't think it's going to be really big because of the fact that we have roughly 4 billion people that don't get to really experience the luxuries that a lot of people who get to use the internet freely get. And I think once that actually gets deployed to all of them, I think that subset is going to be very small, because it's going to be a lot of the people who already have experienced it and have these preconceived notions and fears, instead of the people that, like, oh my God, we finally get access to everything else the rest of the world has had, and it's amazing, and like everything, any type of technology and information is at our fingertips now. So I think it's going to be a very strange shift, but at the same time, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a very activist-focused group that doesn't like technology, and I'm not too worried about it per se. I just see it as an unfortunate reality that people will reject a digital nation, as you put it, because it's going to be a no-brainer. Because why would you be stuck with like political systems that haven't changed for hundreds of years, for a system that is truly an automated political and socioeconomic system that just benefits everyone who's using it, which is what's developing right now. And it's just going to be a no-brainer for 4 billion people who are going to have free internet within the next 20 years, maybe sooner. Heck, Google and Facebook specifically. Well, the Facebook one is kind of weird because that's a dictator type nation deploying free internet to the world. So I see people flocking to that, especially if it's creating a basic income for people. Because I mean, the people that I'm talking about, $1 a day is the difference between eating and not eating. And if they can make $1 a day playing a Facebook game, they're probably going to migrate to the Facebook nation. So when I say I'm worried about a subset of people who are anti-technology, I'm not so much worried about that. I'm more so like acknowledging the fact that they will exist as a subset group of society that has never existed before as a culture. Then there will be the Facebook nation that everyone is just integrating with, like the Borg, because they're just paying people to, which is what's starting to happen. And then you're going to have all the open source mentality people like MadeSafe, IPFS, Ethereum, Bitcoin, maybe less Bitcoin because it's being adopted by big banks, but it's definitely a gateway to make that whole world function and the whole world to move in that direction. So it's more so acknowledging new social classes that are developing, not so much a worry and focus, as you put it. It's just acknowledging what's happening more so than anything, which is really weird, because to think about a digital nation is really hard for you to wrap your head around, considering it's just like now a possibility, and we're in a state of global anarchy. If you think about the fact that we are a globally connected society, all with tribal-like mentalities at the moment, with absolutely no global governance whatsoever, it's total anarchy. I mean, you have altcoin this, and you have sidechain that, and governance problems in Bitcoin. You have traditional like dictatorship type structures trying to circumvent this whole system and push it back and create laws. I mean, it's this very anarchic type system that I think we're going to see that tribal-like mentality start forming governing bodies that are very efficient and very automated in nature. And artificial intelligence is going to play a key role in a lot of that. Smart contracts are going to play a key role in all that. Distributed apps are going to make it to where it can't be stopped unless you shut electricity off for the entire world. And the entire world is getting free internet within the next 10 to 15 years. It's going to be really intense, but at the same time, 4 billion people that are subject to modern-day slavery are going to all have the option to not have to be subject to slavery because they have apps that pay them to use them. And it's going to have this massive shift from societies like ours that specifically in the United States that have lived in a system of extreme social inequality. We have like so much luxury compared to billions of people on Earth, and it's because we're exploiting those billions of people and their resources. And when that shift starts occurring and they don't have to actually work and can make money playing a video game or an app on Facebook, or they make money like commenting on a freaking made safe forum or something, and it's $1 a day. I mean, I know places you can make well over $2-3 a day if you just actually dedicate your time to it, and that's way more than any sweatshop will ever pay you. That's a huge social implication to really understand for those 4 billion people, and all they have to do is access a device that can access the internet. Hell, they might not even actually need the internet. They might just need the information to do something else, and there might be social systems that deploy financial capital, because let's face it, blockchain tech has turned into financial laser beams. You can just focus like all this money to a specific cause, and the entire world can see where it's going on the blockchain, and there's no refuting where it went, how it was spent, and what it went to. I mean, that's a really powerful concept. You know, it's so I'm kind of going off on a tangent a little bit, but the bottom line is, when we go back to the digital nations and we go back to the tribal-like mentality, I see it coming within 5 to 10 years as it being a very, very real thing for the billions of people that don't have an alternative at the moment. They don't have legal systems. They don't have social networks, and they will. And when that happens, they're going to cling to it like you don't even believe. And our slave population that we currently all rely on for our current social system is going to really deteriorate rather fast, because they're going to tell us to go fuck ourselves and, you know, tell us, well, I'm not going to be a slave anymore, and deal with it.
Yep, and all that, Brady, is completely one step of that could make the whole thing fall apart or make the whole thing happen, and that is something we talk about a lot. Is all about the simple user use. If this becomes like someone like, and I don't want to use Chris as an example, but he is in this discussion is a great example. Is when the day we know the real paradigm shift is when Chris doesn't even realise. He's just like, oh yeah, when was the last time I paid taxes to the government? Oh, where wasn't? Didn't we start that's the moment when it's not just this whole revolutionary. We've all got to change our lifestyles. It's just like, oh yeah, once upon a time I used to pay taxes. Oh yeah, and it's just like that. Like once upon a time I used to go down to Blockbusters. You know, it wasn't a revolution. We didn't have to change our lives. We didn't have to, you know, change our diets or, you know, follow some sort of strict sort of like daily ritual. No, Blockbusters just disappeared, and that's going to be the same. I think there's going to be the step, and that's why we focus on. I think it's crucial that to stop this becoming just a Facebook thing, what is necessary with all these technologies is becoming, as you said, where it's simple to use, and that's why I think these are something I think is missing in a lot of all these technologies. They always talk about how this can do this, and look at this, and you think, okay, but how many barriers are in the way to me achieving that? And for this to really happen, which is what I think. I mean, I'm probably with you, Brady. I think this is almost inevitable. But this could not happen if it's still complicated, because we could still be here in 10 years' time going, oh, well, look, we're still talking about it, and people like you are talking about it, but poor old Chris and people like him are like, yeah, but I've still got to pay my taxes to my local authority, and I've still got to pay water bills, and I've still got to, you know, that's the true, to me, how we can judge if we shifted from one paradigm to the next, when it's not whole. You have to change your whole mentality, which is like we wake up one day, just like the Blockbusters mentality, and it's like, oh yeah, we don't go to rent you know, video cassettes anymore because it's not needed, and that's going to be that's the real sign of it. But that to me, as much as I hear all these optimistic people talking about this could happen, that could happen, it could not. All this could crumble apart if it's still left as complicated to use, difficult to use. Because this is, I'm sure, and again, I'll bounce this back to Chris. I mean, why does it? Chris comes on this. You know, we've been on sessions what now, 8 sessions in a row, and from my little I know about Chris is he has no interest in cryptocurrencies or price of Bitcoin or what May say's doing, or he hasn't got any, he doesn't really care. And that's what I'm trying to say. To me, it's to the day that Chris, he's never going to, maybe he never wants to change his opinion, never has any interest in it. Exactly, but maybe he'll never, that's the point. But the real paradigm shift is when we get to people like Chris and all those people who have got no interest in what we talk about, but it's completely relevant to them. But it doesn't have to be a whole where Chris has to wake up in the morning and think, oh, I must know the price of MaidSafe coin, or what's Bitcoin doing on the fear. No. It's got to be directed towards completely towards Chris. That's why I'm fascinated to hear what people like Chris have to say, because it's easy, as you know, Brady. We get into rabbit holes and we talk about. It's almost like singing to a choir, and they're like, yeah. This is all going to happen. I'm like, no. We need to step back and listen to people like Chris, not people like me and like you. We need to hear people like Chris, because to me, we're the outsiders. People like Chris are going to be the ones that are going to be the real judge of this. Is going to be a paradigm shift. So, Chris, the emphasis on you, my brother.
Well, I'm all for your currencies, whether they're crypto or physical. I love the monies, but it has to be able to buy my food or my cat's food, and my local stores, to my knowledge, don't really support it. And if they do, then they don't advertise that they support it.
Chris, so, just to let you know, the Shift debit card was just launched in New Mexico. You can actually go get it. It costs $10, and you can spend Bitcoin at the grocery store now.
Okay, well then I have to start making Bitcoin. I have to start acquiring other currency in order to do that. I already have a hard time getting the currency that I'm already established with.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. That's another reason why I say the 4 billion are going to be the big deciding factor, and not so much the people in developed nations.
Yeah.
Because I think we're going to have a really hard time in developed nations, because a lot of us are used to a certain way of life and used to things happening in a certain way. And a lot of the people, the 4 billion I'm talking about, aren't. They don't have a certain way. It's very chaotic. It's very uncertain. They have no options. And when they have all of a sudden a library they can go to, and once a week they can go to that library and use an app that pays them, or maybe even have a box that is solar powered that connects to a satellite dish on outernet, and if they can prove that they educated themselves, their entire little region who has control of that box is deployed currency onto said box. Well, there you go. Their entire little area just has economic resources that just don't exist outside of that. The problem is a lot of these areas are destabilized, subject to terrorism. People would steal said box. People would destroy any kind of solar panels, and do already as we speak. So there's a lot of uncertainty with those 4 billion people, because people who are currently exploiting those people and have them in a modern day slavery system aren't going to really give that up too easily. They're going to want to maintain that power, maintain that authority, and they're going to destroy anything that's going to take that power away and give those people power. So that's what I see holding it back more than anything else. But at the same time, that societal destabilization causes things like we saw happen in Syria, where people just left the country. The entire population of people just left and went to wherever the hell else, because there wasn't a here anymore. And I unfortunately have a feeling that's going to become more commonplace and happen more and more and repeatedly and over and over and over again, until we all have to just kind of stand up and go, okay, we got to all figure something out as a global society, because this shit isn't working out anymore. And I think that's where that shift is going to play out. But unfortunately, we're talking about a global revolution, and generally real revolutions aren't nonviolent. They aren't pretty. They are very chaotic, psycho, messy, and disgusting, and horrible things happen. So I feel like we're on the cusp of something like that happen, which is why I really pay attention to global politics, global events, and global economics, global currencies. I've really shifted my focus to global, because this whole complacency of protectionism within your little bubble and nation state, I feel is getting closer and closer to over, because we're all a very interconnected global society of nation states that are destabilizing and all going broke at the hands of a very dysfunctional global monetary system. And because of that, when you throw all the other stuff we're talking about in with that, it's a very destable, uncertain reality, and I see a very massive shift coming within the next 30 years. And the next 30 years, I can't even begin to predict what it's going to look like or what's going to happen, other than the fact of what Tim talks about every freaking episode. We all need to start talking. We all have to start connecting, and we all need to start thinking globally. This little my little backyard attitude that a lot of people have, it just isn't going to cut it. We have to think globally. We have to understand that within 30 years, it's estimated we're going to have 10 billion people. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, we're going to have some horrible thing happen and all these people are going to die. And every time I say that, that's the first thing out of a lot of people's mouth. And I'm like, really? That hasn't been the trend throughout human history. We've had the human bubble pop a couple times, and a lot of people die because of wars, famine, plague, all kinds of horrible stuff. But generally, it's been a pretty steady uptrend. And we're like ants. You get knocked down, we just build right back up again. And we can't just say, oh, everyone's going to die, because that hasn't been the case through the entire human history. We're going to continue to grow in population, and we got to figure our shit out. And if we don't, well, there isn't going to be a human population, period. There isn't going to be a lot of shit on this planet. And that's going to equate to having a lot of real conversations about a lot of real shit that a lot of people don't want to talk about right now in the developed nations. And I think we're going to start talking about it real soon, because we were going to have to.
Yep, and Brady, I mean, I have to sort of say, I mean, I'm completely concurrent with you, and that's why I maybe being where I am in this part of this rock where we tumble through space on, I'm only a few hundred miles away from what's going on in Europe, dude, and that's why I say this every week. It's like, I'm no more than anyone else the realities of what this human species be like. But equally, do you know what gives me a lot of optimism, and maybe more time than I've ever had, and I don't try to sort of look at the world in my own moralistic point of view, being positive or negative. I'm just trying to analyze it, and I think the reason that a lot of when you boil it down, that this is all boiling down to guns and implements that can harm human beings. And once you separate any state, and this is what we are talking about, we're talking about states, because we're not seeing McDonald's army, we're not seeing the IKEA army, we're not seeing the Pepsi Coca-Cola army, but we do see states have armies. And if we can separate them from money, which is what I love about all these cryptocurrencies, I love the fact there's billions of them, great, because I don't know which one's going to work, but all the time there's new ones coming on, that's great, because if you can separate the state from money, then they've got no power to go and enforce and teach human beings to go out and fight their wars, which is one of the things. It's a very costly. This is one of the things that we've got so much strength on our side of the camp. If you're going to look at it about, well, you don't want to control people, is that we don't. They have to spend absolutely a massive amount of resources to train a human being to go out to another place, onto a pot on the rock and kill another human being. Whether it's from ISIS or whether it's you still need a lot of breeding to make that another human being do that. That's why there's that study which I always point to, that through all the conflicts they've done, they think about 80% of human beings, when firing at another human being, always fire to miss. This whole idea, it's just innate in human beings not to do it. So they have to breed them and train them more and more and more. So I think if you can take the power of that implement of an army and the state, and that has the power to do that, I think it could happen really in a peaceful way. I think that the tension will be caused by those people that go, yeah, we're losing our power. But if they're losing their power and they haven't got the resources to feed that, hey, we don't speak Latin over in this country. The Romans left and they collapsed. Empire. I mean, the British Empire was everything. This is the nature of humanity. Empires rise, empires collapse. And I just think, you're right. Maybe it will be a bloody experience. We're all going to go through a massive global trauma, but equally, maybe we won't. Maybe that's going to be the paradigm shift we've had before. The momentum's always been about war, and we've used that lizard brain, and then we used that monkey brain, and it's all about fighting that person over the hill or fighting that. Maybe the next real transformation is like, oh, we didn't do that, and we just walked away, and as we say, I mean, when it really comes down to it, Brady, when this is what I try to say to people over and over again, and I've traveled around the world and you have, and this is what the root of this conversation has been about. When you do go out and you meet normal people, and every day you go and meet somebody, There's no hatred there. They have to manufacture this hatred. They have to. Whether they give you a religion that manufactures it, whether they give you a flag that manufactures it, they have to manufacture it because most of us are human beings. That's what I've always said. I guarantee if I went to your town over in Reduso, and tomorrow morning we were sat in the town centre or the village centre or wherever it was, and we saw a little child run out and got hit by a car. No, everybody would do everything in their power to help that child. Nobody's just going to walk past and go, oh, I love no, because that's what the human nature is about. Now, there may be a percentage of people that fight, maybe 1% of the people that would enjoy it, but hey, we can deal with that percentage. We've got to find the things that draw us into common together.
That's the thing. That's when you talk about a paradigm shift. That's actually something that has never existed before in history exists right now, and it's because of the internet and human connection that we have now is causing a new power class to develop. Before, we've had religions, corporations, and nation states basically controlling everything and had all the power. That has completely shifted as of the past 10 years. We're still in the process of it forming, but the fact that we have governance systems being developed, financial systems being developed, legal systems being developed, and social systems that have been developed since the internet started and are very, very prominent. When the governance, social, political, and all that combines into one and strengthens as a whole, which is what's happening right now, that's when we're going to see citizens of the world have that actual power, because our opinions are online, our money is online, our social connections are online, our politics are online, and it's all force-based. It's all very real and human connection-based. The problem is there's a lot of people holding it back because they don't want to see it happen, but there's a lot of people pushing it forward, and I have a lot of respect for everyone who's developing these technologies, alternative currencies, smart contracts. Like I have a lot of these people on a pedestal. All the people I work with, all the people I see just pushing that ball forward every single day to make like social power structures become a thing is just so amazing to me, and I have the utmost respect. And I see it, to be honest, it's a lot of the coders and in like software engineers that I see as the future leaders because of what they're doing. I mean, they're the ones doing it, and I wish I would have taken the time when I was younger to really sit down and learn it, because it's that old saying, program or be programmed. And but it's great, though. I mean, it's we're seeing a social power structure develop for once, and now that balance is starting to kind of take shape. Now we're always going to deal with nation states. We're always going to deal with religious power structures. We're always going to deal with corporate structures. Maybe not always. The corporate structure is already starting to kind of deteriorate because, let's face it, a decentralized autonomous organization is sounding more and more appealing to a lot of people if they actually sit down and hash it out in their brain as to how it should work. But it's all experimental, though. So it's like when the internet was first developed. It's like a bunch of concepts that could be, but they're happening really, really fast at an exponential rate. And I can't wait. I want social power structures to just flourish, and it's finally happening.
Well, Brady, just take it a step back, and I know I don't live in New Mexico, but you mentioned just briefly when answering Chris, you said about how there's a card out now that you can do that. Now, stop there. I mean, I know I'm not in New Mexico, but this is, I think, again, this is what's going to start to develop. So that card, you said, you can pay for like your cat food in the local shop with Bitcoin. Does it just accept Bitcoin? And again, how easy? Because this, to me, I mean, I know we passed over it. That's why I think it's a really crucial thing. Because if I had a card right now where that Bitcoin could be used, that is such a paradigm shift. Because it means that basically now Chris can earn go and walk through various means, can go and earn some Bitcoin, which is completely out of the grid of the state. He can go and buy his cat food, do everything like that, and not once has any. And he's done that all by himself without any. That's such a fundamental thing, because it's right now over here. I'll speak from what it's like in Scotland, Brady. There's no such card in Scotland, and I would love one, dude. If I had one of those over here, I would have bands, creative people I know, all signing up for it, because I would love it. But right now,
if I recall,
please go on. Tell me more about the card. Go on.
Well, if I recall, there are a couple companies. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're trying to push for European Bitcoin debit cards right now. I don't remember the companies. I think Zappo is one company that might have one. I don't know that for sure, but you might want to go look into that. But here in the States, there's two companies doing it, and that's my company, Coinbase, in conjunction with Shift Payments. And it's not available in all U.S. states at the moment. But then there's the other one, BitPay. They also have a debit card, and they work differently. I mean, you go to Walmart, they want US dollars. They're not going to accept Bitcoin. So what happens is when I use my Shift debit card at Walmart, I swipe the card, and in my Coinbase account, I see a payment going to Shift Payments. And I'm just sending a Bitcoin payment to Shift Payments, and they pay for my groceries for me with US dollars on their end. And that's how the card works. So we're still using the US dollar. I'm not. The way I see it is because of the what's happening right now, social capital, what I like to call it, and that's what Bitcoin really is. It's more of a social currency. It's a peer-to-peer currency. I'm just sending a Bitcoin payment to another company who's paying for my groceries for me, and that's essentially how that works. Because when you look at your Coinbase account, it says payments sent to Shift Payments.
Okay, on that basis then, Brady, I mean, this again, I really want to focus this and linger on this. Is that just acceptable at certain grocery stores, or is that available like it is with my? I mean, I'll have a bank card, and I can go down to my local cash machine. I can draw out cash for it, and equally I can use it. Basically, most shops. No, it doesn't have to be certain shops. Most shops will accept a Visa card. So is it?
It's a Visa debit card. It's a Visa debit card. Yeah, it's a Visa debit card, but I'm not dealing with US dollars. A company is actually handling US dollars for me and just basically changing balances, and I just pay the company Bitcoin. So I'm no longer using the US dollar, I'm just using Bitcoin. So it becomes the people's currency, and corporations, banks, and governments are using political currencies still for me on my behalf, but I'm using Bitcoin.
Okay, and again, I mean, what percentage are they charging for the privilege?
I think 1% is except here's the thing though, if you use a credit card, you're actually getting cash back. That's more than 1%. So it's actually costing you more than if you used a credit card. So it's kind of annoying because the credit card companies are all, oh, come on, we're giving you all these benefits. But to be honest, for me to not have to use anything but Bitcoin is kind of worth that extra amount that I pay. And I pretty much exclusively use my Shift debit card. That's all I use now because it's easier. I pretty much I like being in Bitcoin. A lot of people are like, well, don't you hate dealing with the volatility? And if the price really gets all that volatile and I start seeing my account balance like dropping rapidly, I can move it into US dollars within Coinbase, and there you go. It's stable if you want to call a political currency stable, even though they lose value pretty much historically over time, but it's stable temporarily long enough for you to not deal with the Bitcoin instability. But here's the big thing that I'm really focused on. A stable digital currency is coming very soon. There's people working on it in Ethereum. There's people working on it in MadeSafe. There's people working on it with another project called eMoney, which to be honest, that project looks really interesting. It's kind of under the radar, and I don't know what to think of it. But I've been watching it since 2012, I think, is when I first saw it, and I've been watching it, and there's just steady work on it, and it's a stable digital currency, and that's the thing. When we have a stable digital currency, that's when we're really going to see a major shift in everything we're talking about, because you won't have to deal with a digital commodity anymore. You will have a real stable digital currency, and I can't wait. That's what I'm waiting for, because I don't want to use political currencies anymore. Political nation-state currencies, they're full of political risk, and I don't like having political risk. I'd rather have the risk of a couple groups of software engineers quarreling about the block size limit rather than large nation states quarreling about stuff I barely understand or want to understand, for that matter. You know, it's more simple.
Yep.
I mean, the block size debate in Bitcoin might be really freaking annoying, but it's a lot less annoying than people dying because two countries don't get along.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned there, Brad, this is the one again, just while we're on this subject. I mean, you mentioned that it was only available in certain states in America, and you said, there was obviously one over in Europe. Now, what's the barriers there? What's the barriers stopping me from sitting here, maybe in the nationhood of Scotland, getting the same card you got and using it over? What's the barriers? I don't understand.
Legal boundaries, because you have businesses actually deploying this, because they have to create banking relationships with Visa and whoever. I don't know who BitPay is partnering with. I don't have a BitPay one. I'm just using the Shift debit card one at the moment. For obvious reasons, I'm a little biased because of who I work for, but it works. I'm happy with it, and that's what I use. But in terms of you being limited, it's really a matter of just, I don't know, paperwork with businesses, legal systems. The fact that
lawyers haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, really, that's what it is. Lawyers haven't sat down and figured out how can we make this legally work without the business getting shut down because it's outside of any legal structures that currently exist. But that's the thing I like about what's happening is when I say we have social power structures developing, it's been hundreds of years since a social economic system has forced traditional laws, financial, political, and laws to actually change so a new type of system can work. That's huge. That's huge. And if you underestimate how huge that actually is, you're not realizing how much social power is actually at play here, because that's mind-blowing to think about. Like, laws that haven't changed for 50 to 100 years have finally actually bent and changed a little bit. It may not be a drastic change, but that's the thing. When you're dealing with power structures, you're dealing with compromises in power structures, but at least social power structures have enough leverage to actually change laws that haven't changed in decades.
Now, Brady, again, and I really want to focus on this. You're underestimating what that card is. Even in this conversation you've seen, Chris answered you back and saying, "Oh, that's all well and good, but I still need to pay my cat food." And you gave him a solution. That's a huge step forward. I know it still made me very, because of where you are and who you work with, you start every day to you. But to me, I'm sitting there thinking, it's like being in communist Russia hearing about Americans talking about dreams. I'm like, oh man, if I only had a pair of Levi's, if I only had a card, I'd go into look. Dude, I mean, I'm almost, there's a lot of people I know that probably, for the result of this conversation tonight, will probably go, dude, we should go and live in New Mexico, because so these are huge steps, and I think it's important to really highlight that they are, because even in this conversation, Chris gave you an answer, and even in this live conversation now, Chris now knows that he can go and pay his cat food with something that isn't just US dollars, and that's a huge step forward.
Yep. Well,
the next step being getting those non-American dollars to pay for stuff with.
Well, that's the thing though. There's there's apps and games that pay you to play. I mean, there's a game called Spells of Genesis, and like their cards in the game, they're digital trading cards, but they're limited in quantity. So theoretically, they should go up in value. And actually, I've seen a couple of them go up in value. There's a Satoshi card in the game that it's literally like a few $1,000s or something right now. I can't afford that. And the people who initially got it, I guarantee they didn't pay thousands for the damn thing. So there's video games that actually are paying people to play. You might not be like paid regularly, but there's assets within the game. I use the term assets loosely because they're not in the U.S. because digital assets are kind of a hot topic at the moment. It's kind of not. You're not supposed to call them assets. I'm not a lawyer. Let's not even dive into that conversation because I have no friggin' clue. But the fact that you can play a game and make money. I mean, you can play what is it, League of Legends right now, and you can make Digibyte, I think is the cryptocurrency. You can earn Digibyte for playing League of Legends if you go to Digibyte's website and sign up for the little program. It's a little convoluted and kind of a pain in the ass to set it up, but once you set it up, you're actually making digital currency playing a video game. Ta-da! Okay, you got an app called Spells of Genesis, and you're earning freaking bit crystals, which is another digital currency just for playing the game. You've got BitTunes, which is another music app where you buy other for Bitcoin and you get future royalty payments. It's not really royalties; it's just payments for buying those currencies. You've got Sarutobi, which is another iOS game where you just play it and you get paid Bitcoin. You've got another game, a couple different games on Android that you can play. That's like a Flappy Bird coin. It's called Flappy Coin, I think. Their Gems clone that pays you Bitcoin to play. You've got forums that pay you Bitcoin to play. This is what's happening is human action and data is being, exchanged for digital currency, and it may not be Bitcoin, but let's face it, I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. I love MadeSafe, I love Ethereum, I love Bitcoin, I love Litecoin, I love all of them. Like you said, Tim, I don't know which one it's going to be, but it's a positive step in the right direction. So let's go for all of them. I look at all the market cap of all the coins, and I'm like, I want all those ones at the top. And if one starts climbing up, I'll grab a little bit of it too, because that's it. I mean, that's what's happening. I mean, it's like seeing the stock market being born in the earliest of days of when it was first started as a concept, So let's do it. But it's social capital. It's not business capital.
Exactly.
But the debit cards, yeah, I think there's actually two companies doing a European version of the Shift debit card, but I'm not there, so I can't sign up for it and look at it. But I think Zappo, you want to go look at Zappo. I think I don't know for sure, but I think they either have a beta deployed there or they're trying to. I don't know. I'll look more into it though, and I'll let you know. I wish we had some more people on here that was more knowledgeable about the European stuff. I would like to know.
Well, Chris, I'll tell you what, Chris, I would quite happily do this. I'll quite happily send Chris some Bitcoin and then make sure for the next sessions I get to see something that he's actually bought with his Bitcoin on his card, man. I think that would be fantastic. And I'll happily send you, some Bitcoin for that one. Because I think it's...
I have some. Like Brady's given me some to experiment and play around with, so, don't waste money on me. But I still don't know the first bit about using it.
The first bit about bits?
I don't know the first bit about bits. I have not been bitten by this bit bug of which has bitten.
It's not the first time we've used bits. People used to pay for haircuts with 2 bits, man. Just because it's digital.
Yeah, well, I give myself haircuts, so
Okay, well, I'll pay you two. I'll tell you what. I'll pay you 2 bits for a hamburger today or something. I don't know. How does that go?
Shaving your haircut.
Yeah. No. My point really being is the 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 power structures that are currently existing are kind of slowly but surely integrating and accepting the idea of social capital and social power structures. It's frustrating and painstakingly slow because you got to let them play their bureaucratic game of changing their laws to try and fit that square peg in a round hole. But at the same time, things are moving so fast in this realm, the digital realm, that every little tiny change in the traditional legal systems is like this monumental thing if you actually understand the implications of each change. And it's slow and painstaking, but it's happening. It's better than not happening at all. And I can't wait. We're seeing a more open global monetary system that's going to be available to everyone on Earth as soon as those 4 billion have access to a wireless connection with Google blimps and Facebook satellites and outer net and whatever else we have coming. I mean, there's a lot of things happening right now, and I can't wait. Of course, I'm an optimist. I have to be. I'm a parent, but I like pessimists because they're grounding. It's like, hey, dude,
As we keep it real.
Yeah, you keep it real, which is great. I love that because I'm an optimist, so I'm like flying around in the stratosphere going, look at all this stuff going on, it's amazing. And they're like, hey, dude, there's still some stuff going on here we need to figure out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, shit. Sorry. I'll come back down to earth. But that's great. We need that contrast of mentalities to make progress. And I don't see anything but progress.
There's nothing wrong with having your head in the clouds as long as you know the easiest way down without hurting yourself. And
yeah, that's my pessimistic friends.
That's why I have a scissor lift and I put it by the creek. I can go up like 20 feet in the air. I can just stare at the creek and then I climb down my ladder and I'm safe. You guys in the clouds and all your crazy weirdness and your joy and stuff confuses and
I'm
scares
strapping into my rocket and I'm flying with no way down. I'm all or nothing, man. That's why I pretty much have all my money in Bitcoin and that's it. That's just that's it. All or nothing. Let's do this. I'm skating where the puck is, for lack of a better term.
Well, just on a I'm sorry, Chris. It's just I mean, it's a very kind of like geeky kind of thing, but obviously before the next sessions, Brady, the Bitcoin halving is going to happen, and I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts on what you think is going to happen on that.
I don't think anyone can really say definitively what's going to happen because there's a lot of people who can give some kick-ass arguments as to why the price currently is too high. And there's a lot of people who can give some kick-ass arguments as to why it's going to just quadruple in price and be like skyrocketing in value. No one can say for sure because a system like this has never existed in history. It's all experimental. It's all uncertain. For all I know, Bitcoin could crash to $10 right after the halving. For all I know, it could go to 10,000. It's like I'm not an economist. I'm not the best with figuring out economic models and price to share ratios and all the economic jargon that people use. I'm not really good with that. I'm probably better than the average person, but I don't think the best economist in the world knows any better than someone who just heard about Bitcoin because it's all an experiment. It's all new. And we're gonna see how it works. We're gonna let it ride out, and I don't really care what happens. I'm here for the ride, and I'm skating where the puck is, and let's go. I'm in the stratosphere, so if my rocket ship starts crashing to Earth, I will make decisions based on what's happening in the moment, and if it starts skyrocketing, I guess I'll do the exact same thing. I'm a play it by ear musician.
Yeah, Well, that's a pretty definitive answer as anyone can give it, and that's. Do you know what, Brady? Actually, in fact, of all the people I've asked, you give one of the most erudite and wise answers because there's so many people, like you said, they will spend. And this is private conversations I've had as well. They spend hours telling about one argument or the other, and it's actually really wise, I think, to say I don't know, because I think that's generally with all of life. None of us know. And anyone, I'm maybe this is where Chris doesn't understand how much I'm in the same camp as him. I generally don't believe anybody that tells me they know the solid solution to the future, because I'm like, no, you're just a snake salesman, man, my friend.
I'm a skeptic all the time. I'm skeptical of my own opinion. You have to be a skeptic of your own opinion because you got to realize, if you don't accept the fact that you're probably full of shit, how are you even going to attempt to believe anyone else when, like, your own opinion is that uncertain? I mean, you can't really believe anyone better than yourself. And if you're not hedging your bets and you're taking a very neutral stance, then you're being inflexible. And being inflexible historically generally just hurts yourself. You got to adapt to change, not try to predict the future.
Exactly, dude. Well, have you got any songs planned for tonight, man?
I do. I'm sorry this wasn't too much of a musical session.
No.
It was like a Life as People session, which I don't have a problem with because this is Life as People. So everyone can just deal with that. I'm sure everyone's getting sick of hearing my same old songs anyway, but I'm trying to get other musicians on here. But hey, I have a painting this time, so hey, we have something new here. This is instead of working on my music, this is what I worked on. So this is today's session work. So I hope you enjoy it. I really spent a lot of time and effort into this thing.
Do I have to bring an art project next sessions?
You do. That's your homework. That's your homework.
I had a plan. I'll start working on that.
Brady, have you got a working title for that painting?
Duality, because it's if you look at it, it's like I started with just a mountain scenery, and I was like, what the heck am I going to do with this? So I just painted the whole bottom fourth of it black. And I was like, you know what? This is going to be an under-the-ocean scene. And I wanted the duality of the human mind and that dichotomy of, like, I always take that middle ground with everything I do. And this kind of displays that. And when I first started my music project, I actually started a production company and publishing company. It's registered under Dual Minds because, I mean, humans are they have a duality to them. We have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to us. All of us do. That's being human. I mean, we wouldn't be human if we didn't have that. And that's kind of what the painting represents, is dual minds and the duality that is just a part of us.
Well, dude, that's so circular to where we started this whole sessions off tonight. I mean, I was playing with the Ceiling Demons, and as you know, their very first album was called Dual Sides, and that was exactly that whole album was based around. So yeah, there we go. That was a perfect circular, duality, man. That's exactly we should call this podcast tonight, man. Duality, because that's exactly what life is. Duality.
It is. And if you don't accept that duality to everything and take that middle ground and understand that there's two sides to every argument, well, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot.
So have you got any tunes that are anything to do with duality, man? That'd be a great one to sort
of... let me see. Let me think. I do have one, but it's more recorded. I don't have it on guitar. Let me think. Shoot. Damn it, that would have been perfect if I could have ended on that, huh? Let me tune up here and I'll think about it. What's that?
I was just going to say, while you're tuning up, man, it's been absolute insightful conversations like dude. And I know you said it's like life is people, but no, it's not. This is sessions, dude. This is what happens when you get a bunch of people in any recording studio, dude. They just sit around and do this, and it's like, oh shit, we've got to record some tracks now. Or maybe that's just what we were like with my band, because we sat around talking all day, and it's like, oh shit, we better do some recording now. So
We were supposed to record today. Damn it!
yeah, dude.
What happened?
So
That's
exactly.
that's really what I like about sessions, is because it really opens people up to what it's actually like. It's not a production. It's not TV. It doesn't have a script. It's totally real. Sometimes we sit around and we just talk, but you know what? This conversation led to you saying, hey, do you have anything about duality? And I do, kind of, but it's not prepared to perform right now. But now next sessions I have a good theme to go with and move into. So that's really what writing is all about, is sometimes you have a conversation that leads to your next song. And so there we go. Thank you, Tim. And next sessions I'll try to prepare something for duality.
But now I have to.
Well, on that one, I was just going to say, Brady, is there any chance before the next sessions and maybe the next couple of days you can put, if you've got that recorded and you could put it up and someone we listen to it, maybe SoundCloud or just.
It's very raw stuff. I'll look around and see what I have. I might actually have something decent that I can throw up, and if not, I'll just sit down one evening and I'll just start hammering out something that sounds good. And I'll be honest, I had a lot going on. I actually had a family member pass away this past week, past couple weeks ago, and I haven't done anything. That's what I was dealing with. So I don't have anything prepared, which is why most of the session was more of a conversation, because I kind of needed just to talk to my friends and kind of get the conversation a little lightened up. And it's hard to focus on your art and music, and that's probably why I painted, because I just needed a change of pace and something different, and so there you go. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to kind of freestyle and play whatever. Might mix some of my other songs. I take both sides. I'll never understand till I see both sides. I need to see your point of view because it's no different than mine. You're so different than mine and yours. See your side. I see your side. See your side, just like you see mine. It's the only way you can get by. Focus on the only thing that makes life seem bad. I'm gonna focus on the landing of the lights. Never take it for granted on the other side. You can't attack me, you can't break me. I'll never see all that love. See on the side, take my time. I'm gonna live my life. I'm on my way now. A little freestyle there.
I was going to say with that, my man would call it a night. And from me over in Scotland, over there in good old US of A, good old America, as we like to say, it's life is people sessions, people. Thanks a lot, man. Life is people, people.